Good morning. This is the KAP notes for rates and unit rates. It will also be ACA's notes on Monday if you are absent on Monday. We already have a warm-up to start. Pause and play if you need to. My class is already warmed up, so we're going to go over it. Number one, it says find the ratio of starfish to fish. Write as a fraction in simplest form. Can you help me out, please, Mylin?
So there's 3 starfish, 6 fish.
Okay. So the starfish to fish, you said was 3 to 6.
Or it goes to 1 to 2.
Okay. And it did want it as a fraction, sorry, 3 over 6. And you said that's the same thing as 1 to 2. Y'all agree?
Yes.
I agree as well. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Is that a part to whole ratio or is that a part to part ratio?
Part to part.
Part to part. Very good. Okay. Number 2, if there were a total of 16 fish, how many starfish would you expect there to be? Now, this level got confused on this in first period. I got thrown off by the word total. Is that giving me the total or is that giving me the part? It's actually giving me the part because again, this ratio is talking about the number of starfish to fish. Okay, it's talking about the number of fish. It's talking about the denominator. I got really thrown off because if it's your total, it's actually impossible. Well, it's a really hard number. Yes, Shrieker.
You do it through proportions.
Yes, but I'm saying if you use 16 as the total, it's not a friendly number at all. So, so that is a proportion. So, Shrieker, you want to do this one? Okay, tell me.
You put 3 over 6.
Very good. Again, that's talking about, I always want labels. So that's talking about starfish and normal fish.
Yeah. And equals x over 16.
Very good, because we don't know how many starfish, but we do know that there's 16 fishy fish.
So you work towards the x, so down and up. So 6 divided by 2 equals 3. So 16 divided by 2 equals 8.
Divided by 2, x is equal to 8 starfish. Y'all agree?
Yes.
Okay. Could you have worked it side to side? Yes, that would be times, if I went that way, 2 points, yeah, something, not as good.
It's like 8.
Huh?
I think it's like 8.
It's something,
Whatever.
yes.
We didn't do it.
We don't teach that, but yes. Okay. I could have also used that 1 to 2, that simplified ratio of 1 to 2 to work it up to 16, and then worked it times 8 times 8, and got the same thing. Either way you work it, it's it. That's the beauty of it all.
Wait, did you have the question of that?
They might, yeah, because that was big. There will always be enough information on that. All right, let's go over homework. Now, in this class, we do not get to that last part of the lesson with these problems, right? Okay. Did y'all get a chance to work through these?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Trigger.
In the video, I saw it only showed numbers 1, 2, and 4 proposals on the top.
Well, you should have done the back no matter what. Okay, that's great. Yes.
I didn't see the video, so I just did it by my own.
Yeah, I responded to you this morning.
Yeah,
I forgot, so I'm sorry. Raiden? Yes, we're gonna check the homework, but I first wanted to see if there's any questions on this part y'all had to do on your phone. Yes, Philip? Number 2. Okay, number 2 was a weird one. We had done it with class, but again, we were doing that exit ticket, so there wasn't enough time. This one is talking about packets and how long it takes to put them together. Okay, so we have talked about always putting the units across. So I'm saying like packets over minutes, right? Y'all agree with that? And then the proportion it gives us 12 packets in 20 minutes, and wants to find out how many minutes it would take for 50 packets. We didn't actually have to solve, we just wanted the proportion that fits it. Do we see one that matches that? What we did? No. Okay, so in that video recording, I talked about how with proportions they're actually like amazing, and we either want to line them up side to side, but we can also with a proportion rotate it to make it like we just turn it around. So what I mean by that is instead of doing packets on top, I can make a proportion up and down with packets in this column and then minutes over here. And so what I can do is, so it said 12 packets took 20 minutes. So instead of lining it up in a proportion up and down, I can line it up side to side so they still go together. Then with packets, I now have 50, and I want to figure out how many minutes that takes. Do y'all see how that still lines up with each other? Okay? And that's why you need to watch the lesson, because we haven't talked about that, so I can't assume that you know that. That's why I asked you to watch that video, because that's something we talked about. Okay, so that is why the answer is A. Good? So this one? Yeah, that one? Okay, yes, that was the other one we talked about. That fifth problem, voices, please keep those off. So just again, so there's a basket with tiles, and there's 160 of them in that basket. But when I separate them with the red and the green, there's supposed to be a ratio of 7 to 3. So the ratio of red to green was 7 to 3. I need to figure out how many actual ones there are, because if I only have 7 and 3, that doesn't give me 160. So this ratio right here, 7 to 3, is that a part to part or a part to whole ratio? A what? Part to part. Very good. It gives me the number of red to the number of green, red to green, and it says that it's 7 to 3. Okay? When they give me this 160, is that a part or a whole? It is the whole. It's 160 in that, but they're splitting it into things. So what I can do with some ratios is I can figure out the total, right? If I have a 7 to 3 ratio, how many total are there? That's a total of 10, because I just need to add this part plus this part gives me my whole. Okay? This is weird. Okay? We didn't do a 3-part ratio, and that's why I asked you to watch the lesson yesterday. And so it's sort of weird, but it sort of makes sense. A part to a whole. Now that 160, I can say, okay, that's my new total. And because it's a ratio, because they're proportional, all I need to do is figure out what they did here, and then I do the same thing for the rest of it. So how did they go from 10 to 160? Times 16. So to keep that ratio, I'm going to do times 16 and times 16. Okay? And that's going to give me my other things. 3 times 16 is 48, and then 16 times 7 is 112. Okay? And to check, you can also say, okay, 112 and 48, if I add those, I should get 150. Does that make a little sense? Yeah. Okay? So again, the reason why I drill proportions in is because now we're doing it on ratios as well. Okay? It's one thing that is really universal in the world. It's beautiful. It's just looks different. Yes, you.
Proportions are just used to like understanding how to do this.
Yep.
And we're not gonna like use proportions forever.
Okay.
We can use them in other things.
Cool. That's awesome. Okay? Yes, ma'am. The last question is very similar to the one we just did. Okay, so it's saying that there's 56 pieces. That's talking about the total into 2 groups with a ratio of 3 to 5. Okay, so that 3 to 5 ratio, that's a part to a part. To figure out that total number, I can add them to get 8. Okay, so that's a part to a part to the total. If I have now 56 pieces, okay, what did they do to get from 8 to 56? Times 7, so I'm going to do the same thing to all of them. 5 times 7 is 35, and then 21. Okay? There's a few problems like that on the homework, so if you haven't done that on the homework, maybe come back to them. Okay? I am going to go ahead and move on to the key or the back. Oops. Where'd it go? One second. Any questions on that part of things?
I have a question.
Yep.
I really don't understand question number 8.
8. Okay, I'm scrolling. An assortment of candies are sold in 1 pound bag. If there are 3 peppermint candies for every 10 candies in the bag, what proportion can find the number of peppermints in a 45 piece bag? So that 3 for every 10, is that a part to part or a part to whole?
Part to whole.
It's a part to whole for every 10 candies. So I use like, instead of B, I use like T for total. That makes more sense. So there's 3 peppermint for every 10 total. And it says that if there's a 45 total, how many are going to be peppermint? And that matches T. They just switch the size of the proportions that we talked about. Number 6. Do you need me to explain it or just checking it? Yep. That's the decimal. Yep. Explain it, number 5. Okay, so it's very similar to those 2 I just did, but these are like the practice ones. Do you want to try them on your own and then check on Canvas? Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Again, if you didn't get to that, especially this class, because I know we were rushed yesterday, come back to this and practice it. Today, we're going to be talking about rates and unit rates, and it's very similar to everything we've been doing, because guess what? Did we see proportions? Okay, it's yet another skill. So, proportions are just very useful for a lot of things. I'd rather teach you one way for 4 different types of things than 4 different things. Okay, because we use them for percent, we use them for conversions, we use them for ratios, here we go with rates. Okay, and we're going to come back even more. Okay, so as we know, a rate is just like how often something happens in some amount of time or whatever. There's different ways where you write rates. So for example, they're talking about 15, like if you're typing 15 characters in 5 seconds. We all agree that's a rate. Yes, it is. It's however much you can do in some amount of time. A unit rate is what I want to do if I wanted to, instead of for 5 seconds, I wanted to know how much I can do in 1 second. So, hey, look, it's a proportion. How do I get there? Divide by 5 to keep it proportional. I will divide by 5, and I get 3/1. 3 in 1. All right, so a rate is a comparison. If I just written as a fraction, what operation is a fraction? Oh, let's try that. When I write any fraction, what operation is it telling me to do? Division. Okay, I want to work with this one person. A comparison by division of 2 quantities. Okay? A unit rate is when we like break it down. It's when it is simplified to have a denominator of what? Of 1. Okay, because you're trying to, some rate gives you some amount. I want to get it.
Sometimes on the numerator.
Typically you will want to set it up so it's on the bottom. Technically, yes, you can, but you have to flip it around and do all this stuff. Okay? All right. Pretty simple. Set up your rate. Divide. That's how you do unit rate. Okay? So, question number 1. So we have to take 45 oranges in 5 minutes. Express this as a unit rate. Okay? Always put your units. What 2 things are we talking about in here? We're talking about minutes and oranges. Okay? I'm going to put oranges on the top. Orange over minutes. Again, that helps me set up my proportion. What am I going to put over what?
45 over 5.
I'm going to put 45 over 5, and I want a unit rate, so I want a denominator of 1. Okay? Again, the reason why I put the minutes on the bottom, but I want to know how fast it takes me to pick an orange. Not really. No. I mean, sure, if you really wanted to, but it's more useful to know how many oranges I can pick in 1 minute. Okay? It's a proportion. What do y'all see? Great. My answer is 9. Okay? With unit rates, I always like to put my units. So that is 9 oranges per minute. Okay? In the rates, in the units, it tells you what order you did it. Oranges per minute. Oranges per minute. Now see how I did that? Wow. Such a power. The Australian dragonfly can travel 18 miles in 30 minutes. How far can the dragonfly travel in 1 minute? So if I'm going for 1 minute, is that going to be my denominator or my numerator? Denominator. So my numerator is going to be miles. Set it up. Solve. Or set it up. Ryan, what number is going to go in the top?
Top is going to go 30.
I disagree. That doesn't match up with my units. About using those units, okay, and then
that place or the other place?
Yep. Top or bottom?
The bottom on the other place is gonna be 1.
Very good.
And the top is 5 by 30
All right, what did we get? Yes, ma'am? 0.6 miles per minute. 0.6 is the same thing as 3/5. You could have also put 3/5 miles per minute. Yes, ma'am. Very good. All right. So this last one, I think it's just what I've been talking about. She downloaded 35 songs in 5 minutes. How many songs did she download per minute? So again, reading, sometimes they tell you the units in the problem. It says songs per minute. So that means when I set it up, it's going to be songs per minute. Y'all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Finish the page. All right, here are the answers to those 3 questions. Again, you need to put units real quick. 3/4 is the same thing as 0.75. Could I put this last one as a fraction?
Yes.
Let's try that again. This last one, 22/18. Could I put that as a fraction?
No.
Why not? Not because it's a decimal. Because it's money. Money is never as a fraction. Okay, that bottom box, let's fill in those. Dylan, thank you. The unit rate is also called the unit price because you're finding the cost of one. Notice that cost per unit, that means in your proportion you would put money over the thing. That's when you want the unit price. It's like if you had a box of Cokes and you just wanted the unit price, it'd be the cost over how many. Okay, keep going to the classwork. I'm going to give instructions for the video. The key is posted on Canvas so you can check. For homework, it's just those 4 problems, but also remember your test review is in Aware. That is due by Monday at 11:59. Okay, the reason why we have that time is because it's due online before we get to school the next day. We're going over the review on Tuesday of next week. So that review you need to have complete by midnight on Monday. You can also work on Imagine Math questions.
So what type of grade is it?
What?
Test review?
Who can answer that? It's an other grade. Very good. Other question. Okay. Yes? No. So again, the test review is due Monday night, and we'll go over it on Tuesday. On Wednesday is our test. Okay? Y'all can finish. That is it for the recording.